This might not be a member. Have a long-standing relationship. Exactly. They're a forum called the Mediterranean. Mediterranean dialogue. Wait, hold on. So this is the North Atlantic Ocean. Wait, I couldn't scroll. Oh, okay. The North, the Pacific. What is this? What is this line? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe this is like. Oh, okay. I see. So it's like. All right. The South Pacific, South Atlantic, North. This is the. This is our ocean, Indian Ocean. This is Middle East. Well, this one. The West. It's still the West though, like. But yeah, North Atlantic Ocean. Yes. Where's Israel? Israel is in here. It's very small. Cairo, the Egypt. Okay, I mean like so Greece, Italy, Bulgaria, Romania, Hungary is also part. Poland. I don't know if Poland is part of NATO. Is it? Yes. Poland, Lithuania, I believe. No. Yeah. Estonia, Latvia. In 2004, 1 year before I was born, a year before I was born, a year prior before I was born. I think how do I say that? A year prior before I was born. Yes, Croatia, Germany, Netherlands, United Kingdom, Denmark. Norway. Yeah, basically the Nordic country or is the part of NATO. So this is ASEAN, Asian. How to pronounce that? How to pronounce ASEAN?
ASEAN.
ASEAN. ASEAN. ASEAN. ASEAN.
ASEAN.
ASEAN. So it's not Asian. ASEAN. So this is ASEAN, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Myanmar. I don't know if India and Nepal is part of ASEAN, but wait, hold on. ASEAN countries: Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Only 10. Okay. Philippines, Vietnam, Cambodia, Myanmar, Bangladesh is not. Myanmar, Laos, Thailand, Cambodia, Singapore, Indonesia. It is not part. Where's that thing? It's that Laos. Where's Laos? Timor-Leste is not part of it. Yes, Laos. Thailand, Cambodia. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Alright, we're going to look that up later. What's this? Ah, I see. Okay. So where were we? Okay, Mediterranean dialogue. I don't know what that is. There's like a lot of like organization that I have known. For example, the obvious one, ASEAN. Is that the correct way? I don't know. I forget. ASEAN,
ASEAN,
ASEAN. Okay, ASEAN. All right, ASEAN, like ASEAN, NATO, European Union, and also some like this Mediterranean dialogue. What is that? I don't know. This initiative was established in 1994 to foster security cooperation and promote regional stability between NATO and 7 non-member countries. And this is like basically just they're basically just NATO because I mean the purpose is the same to to like foster security cooperation and promote regional stability. This is what NATO this is like what NATO is basically. So what's the point of that? Wow. Oh, because yeah, because of the limitation of the like the name like NATO, which was like the North Atlantic, so it's only North Atlantic, but they basically having um they support like other country that that have maybe some characteristics or something like that. Pretty new at this, I don't know. It's just really too much. In addition, Israel has a special status as well. Like this is best. Israel is NATO, but not in like in paper. Major non-NATO ally of the United States. While this designation does not grant Israel the collective defense guarantees of a NATO member, it provides significant military and financial benefits, including priority access to certain US military technologies, training, and cooperation opportunities. God damn. I mean, yeah, they're that's crazy. Major non-NATO ally, Mediterranean dialogue. Mediterranean or double R. Mediterranean dialogue. Okay, what's this? Form of cooperation between NATO and 7 countries of the Mediterranean. Its stated aim is to create good relations and better mutual understanding and confidence throughout the region, promoting regional security and stability, and explaining NATO's policy. And explaining NATO's policy and goals. What? Good relations to better mutual understanding and confidence throughout the region, promoting regional security and stability, and explaining NATO's policy and goals. The dialogue reflects NATO's view that security in Europe is tied to the security and stability in the Mediterranean. It also reinforces and complements. Wait, I forget this word. To make something stronger and reinforce. If something reinforces an idea or opinion, it provides more perfect support for it and makes it seem true. It also reinforces and complements the Euro-Mediterranean Partnership, okay, and the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe's Mediterranean Initiative. The members: Egypt, wow, Israel, Mauritania, I don't know what country is that, Morocco, Tunisia. Subsequent members: initial members, the first subsequent members, Jordan and Algeria. Submit. That's just crazy. Like, I feel like NATO like just monopolize. Wait, monopoly. What is the verb for that? Is there a verb? Can I use verb of the word of this word? I don't know. I don't think so. Monopoly. Monopolize? Is that a word? Yes, it is word. Okay. Yeah, I feel like NATO monopolizes this, country that they want to like have so many alliance, you know. That's just crazy. Like, that's crazy. So yeah, let's go back to the motion. This house regrets the continuous expansion of NATO. So yeah, I already knew what it means by expansion, the constantly growing network of NATO, the constantly um the constantly growing the constant growing of NATO's network seems very dangerous, I don't know why. Maybe because first NATO is led by the United States, and I don't know what the goal of NATO is. Maybe just look up what it what is the general purpose is to have like wait, hold on. See, like, alliance to protect the country that is within that organization. It's a collective security system in which its member states agree to defend each other against attacks by third parties, which the countries that has been against with the United States, maybe. I don't know how to state it. Maybe I'm going to try to set the frame. Start to. Okay, the frame of this motion could be. I always remember the Luigi's explanation about the frame, that this debate is not about whether NATO is good or bad, or whether the expansion or the continuous expansion of NATO is good or bad. I remember when he said that about regarding the motion about organized religion. So it doesn't so it doesn't mean that organized religion is good or bad, is harmful or not, but he just said that he set the frame by saying that organized religion can be bad for personal spirituality, for the personal spirituality. And I was like, yep, that is the one. I mean, I don't know. It's like have so much I have so much like things going on in my head, but I couldn't respond it one by one, so like I just kind of blank. And yeah, so that's basically the way. like like the way is there's individuals who are trying to focus on the religion by themselves without you know being organized by the state, that okay, religions should be like this, should be like that. you know he focuses on setting the frame, which is that is really, like, to me, especially when I first hearing it for the first time, hearing it for the first time, it was like, okay, this argument is could be persuasive enough because, okay, personal in the individual spirituality is important. Okay, individual spirituality is important. Organized religion, and so organized religion is not necessary. I don't know if that can also apply in this specific topic, like continuous expansion of NATO. Like, what is the effect of expansion of NATO? It's very political, and I have no idea, but about this. Like, okay, so let's be a fool completely. So continuous expansion of NATO. Okay, what is the okay, if NATO keeps expanding, keeps growing their political network with other countries, I don't know what the intention of I don't know what the intention of NATO by constantly, continuously expanding their political network with other countries. I don't know that. I don't know the intention. But let's look at the NATO's opponent, which is the China and Russia. The China and Russia have also political organization with other countries. I mean, China is, especially Russia, is a big ass country. Look at that shit. And these are very small country. Look at Russia here. Look at China. Big ass country, right? So, and also Russia is very close to their opponents, which is Finland, Estonia. I don't know if Belarus count, Ukraine, Turkey. I don't know, but let me try. Let me try to just think out of this motion without because I've been reading a lot and watching a lot about the debate, about PP debate, especially from Indonesia. Like, I've had enough of that. I have like watched enough. I just want to like, I just want to start to like building or improving my own argument by actually, doing something to make my own argument. And this is really tough. Yeah, regrets the continuous expansion. Okay, let me think. Nationalism. Nationalism can. Nationalism is important because if there isn't there is no nationalism, set the people will be collectively set their own boundaries. So for example, if you're from Java, if we're from West Java, because there's no nationalism, we will just label ourselves and other people as something. We set ourselves, we are from West Java, so like we're West Java, and then we are West Java people, and then the other one is, I don't know who are they're just stranger, and that could lead to tension of, oh, because you're a stranger, I don't want to help you, like some sympathy and empathy, etc. That's the consequence if there's no nationalism. And what is the consequence of continuously growing expansion of NATO? Okay, I give up, I guess. I give up. Maybe I'm just going to look the example of what are these people. What are these people going to? I think this one. Yeah, this house regrets the continuous. Okay, that's cool.
2024, congratulations for making it this far.
2024, fire.
So,
This is novice, like that's crazy,
expansion.
This novice motion, like fuck,
So,
man.
by expansion, meaning there's going to be lots of countries that is wanting to join NATO organization. And as we all know, not every country is not really good with each other, because there's a country that have a tendency to have a cold war with each other.
Okay.
Now, as the info site say that
I don't know what that is. What that is called, like the opening, like the opening part of Prime Minister just said. I don't know if she's trying to like set like frame or something, or okay, let me identify this.
NATO organization.
Okay, first she defines it. What is it? Expansion, right? Expansion. Hold on. Expansion is like keep growing. The organization keep growing by recruiting other countries.
By expansion, meaning there's going to be lots of countries that is.
I don't know why, but comparing my explanation to her is like very, there's a huge gap. I feel like my explanation is like very fake and awkward and just silly and just not clear. But after watching this, after listening to her explanation, even though it's not the best, but like it's very understandable and it's better than
by expansion.
And I feel like so insecure, and I'm glad I acknowledge this feeling.
expansion, meaning there's going to be lots of countries that is wanting to join NATO organization. And as we all know, not every country is not really good with each other because there's a country that have a tendency to have a cold war with each other.
Yes.
Now, as the info site say that NATO is one of the organization that has like agreement upon intergovernment alliance.
Yes.
Now, when NATO is not going to be very exclusive as we know. Like when doing expansion, there is going to be like lots of countries or intergovernment that wanting to join. So because they would do anything to have the accessibility of the agreement of the military alliance
and collective security. Why? Because when NATO is not going to be very exclusive organization. Now, as the info site say that NATO is one of the organization that has like agreement upon intergovernment alliance. Now, when NATO is not going to be very exclusive as we know. Like when doing expansion, there is going to be like lots of countries or intergovernment that wanting to join. So because they would do anything to have the accessibility of the agreement of the military alliance and collective security. Why? Because of course it's NATO. The NATO, the organization itself, is going to guarantee these countries' safety. That is why they is going to compete to become part of this organization. Especially in status quo, there's lots of geopolitical problem, as in what happens right now. So why this is something that is very regrettable. So with expansion, there is very regrettable. So with expansion, there is going to be like lots of countries compete to join, and this can create a tension.
Okay, with expansion meaning that there's gonna be a lot of countries that compete to join. I don't know if I'm not sure if this is like if this is what the tendency of any country have, like they want to like join NATO, and I don't know if the requirements is really that hard to join the NATO. I believe so, but I don't think that. Oh, okay. It's starting to click. Okay, NATO is very very dominant organization. Okay, compared to ASEAN, and also ASEAN. Yeah, I think ASEAN is also prioritize security, and yeah, I think it's the same as NATO, but NATO is the most dominant organization. So I think it makes sense that if there's a lot of countries that want to like join NATO. Interesting framing. Like I don't think I never thought about it. Because I thought that NATO is just like an organization that is. I don't know. Let's continue.
Regrettable. So with expansion, there is going to be like lots of countries compete to join, and this can create a tension between these countries, like even countries that really doesn't have tension with each other. Like
okay, the question I'm having is like, is this like is it like possible for a country to join like NATO like in a way that is like a job applicant, like job application system, like they send like proposal, oh, I need to join your organization because I need help, military help, etc. And the requirement is really hard. You require some, you do not have like alliance with country that against this dominant country, which is the United States. I don't know if this is the case. This is the way for countries to. Is the way of countries to join NATO. I don't know.
And this can create a tension between these countries, like even countries that really doesn't have tension with each other. Like we can see what happened to um, Russia and Ukraine, because of course these countries, they want to be protected, and because they want to.
Oh yeah, that's a good example. NATO and Russia and Ukraine. So the war, I don't know the cause of the war of Ukraine and Russia, but if I can assume, the assumption would be the Ukraine wants to join NATO and Russia didn't accept that because Ukraine is very close to Russia and has they've been working together. I don't know. I mean, historically they're just like uni-Soviet, right? So, and then I don't know. Interesting.
They want to be protected, and Ukraine, because
Ukraine wants to be protected.
of course these countries, they want to be protected, and because they wanting to join NATO, the tension between Russia and Ukraine is happening.
Okay, I hope what she was saying is true. So my assumption is true that Ukraine wants to join the NATO. I have to look that up.
Of course, it is already happened even before NATO, but because of that, the tension between Ukraine and Russia is getting even worse. Now, here is the counterfactual. If NATO did not expand their organization like that much, of course, this is something that is preventable. Yes, we know there is a tension even before Ukraine wanting to join NATO, but the tension is getting really low. Like every day, but since Ukraine wants to join NATO, and this is something that is really offending to Russia, so Russia decided to do something that is really bad to Ukraine, and that is what happened right now, and this is a NATO that
I would be like this too if the motion is like this. Like I would be very pissed off, like very tired and shit. Like, why do I got this fucking motion, bro? I don't even know what NATO is.
Doesn't really help this country that is wanted to join, because they can still be more sufferable, even though NATO is promised them with a military alliance or even collective security, because of course, like these countries, if the tension that has not been there, but because of this NATO expansion, they wanted to compete again. They wanted to join. They're going to be compete against each other, and their tension is going to be even really bad, and especially if what happened to Russia in Ukraine, NATO doesn't really help Ukraine in return, even though Ukraine haven't joined NATO, and they're still suffer until right now. And it is going to be better in our side of the house because if oh yeah so that's it from me. So proud to propose.
I know what she's feeling. I know what she's feeling, bro.
Thank you for the speech. To open the case in opposition, I call upon leader of opposition. Hear it.
So, she only gives like 5 minutes speech.
Mic check.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, before I start my argument, let us engage with a couple of the arguments given to us brought to this debate by the opening government. First, they argue that nations wanting to join NATO actually create tension in the world, right? That's what they bring to this debate. They give an example of Russia and Ukraine. We disagree with that. We argue that actually this tension between nations can actually be solved by a further expansion of NATO itself. Secondly, they brought to this debate that Ukraine wanting to join NATO is somehow creating tension because it is offensive to Russia. What they did not bring to this debate, however, is the reason why Russia might actually find that Ukraine wanting to join NATO is offensive. So we will explain that to you. Russia has imperialistic tendencies. It always has since the USSR days, right? And it believes that Ukraine, after the breakup of the USSR, is still rightfully the territory of Russia, when it is actually not. When Ukraine is actually a self-governing country, a sovereign nation that has the right to defend itself. We believe in this right to defend yourself. That is why we are proud to oppose the motion. Okay, moving on to our arguments. First, before we understand why the expansion of NATO is actually good, we first need to understand why what NATO is, right? First, NATO is a defense alliance, as brought by the opening government. Attack on one NATO member is an attack on every NATO member. Now, what is the result of this? What is the result of this? This results in like a shared protection, right? It is basically used to defend smaller nations. For example, at its creation, there are 12 nations. A couple of them are actually smaller countries like Netherlands or Belgium, countries that do not have the means to defend itself if the Red Army come knocking. That is why NATO was created, to defend this nation and to preserve the peace already achieved through blood, sweat, and tears in World War II, right? But that was NATO when at its inception. What is NATO now? What does it do now, right? We believe that NATO, as it is right now, is still a means to protect and ensure peace in Europe, right? It acts basically as a deterrent backed by the whole EU, the whole Europe, pretty much, and also the mighty firepower of the US, right? Now, as it is right now, NATO is the only shield protecting Europe from all-out war, from all-out Russian aggression. Why? We'll prove to you one by one, right? First, the aggression. We argue that this aggression is always there, and that is why NATO expansion is always necessary. When the USSR fell, again, a nation like Estonia, Latvia, smaller countries in the Baltic are running in droves to try to join NATO. Why? Because they realize that there is an inherent risk of Russia's imperialist tendencies. They want to protect their sovereign land that they managed to achieve, and the only way to protect that is by joining NATO and ensure that their safety, their livelihood, and their future is guaranteed, right? But what happens when things go wrong? There's a couple of examples for this. For example, one, Georgia, which was invaded by Russia, and Crimea and Ukraine by extension to that, right? These invasions, these unjustified invasions are proof of Russia's imperialistic tendency, that it proves that Russia is willing to expand its border by all means, and that includes war, right? This is the reason why nations now, like such as Finland and Sweden, countries who previously have remained neutral and have not joined NATO are joining NATO because they realize that the risk of Russian imperialism is real and they want to defend themselves. And the only way to do that, to ensure peace, to ensure stability, is to join NATO, right? The another thing is that NATO expansion is done willingly. Each nation that joins NATO have voted to join NATO. And not only that, but every single member of NATO has to agree until a new member can be appointed or can be inaugurated as a new member of NATO, right? That ensures that this organization is always harmonious because because in order for it to gain a new member, each member of the organization, of the existing organization, will also have to agree. This also limits NATO expansion so that it doesn't become too extreme. Why? Because if you have as many nations in NATO as it is right now, I believe right now is around 40 now, it will create more stricter standards for new nations to join in, right? So that reduces the tension between already NATO members and NATO neighbors that are in geographical NATO area, so that tensions in itself are reduced, right? Right. Another thing is that we argue that this NATO expansion is actually good. Why? Because it strengthens the alliance, right? The stronger the alliance, the more countries are in this alliance, the more countries are protected. The more countries are protected, the lesser conflict there will be in the world, right? For example, like we argue that it's good because why? Because if, ladies and gentlemen, if it were to happen, Ukraine was in NATO, then we wouldn't have this conflict. Why? Because Ukraine would be guaranteed, right? Russia would not attack a NATO member because it simply understands that its military might is no match for the combined force of NATO, right? For example, if we end, ladies and gentlemen, if the conflict between Ukraine and Russia didn't happen, we wouldn't have to deal with the things that we have to deal now. For example, we would have less expensive fertilizer because Ukraine and Russia is the massive exporter of fertilizer in the whole world. We would have cheaper grain products such as wheat. We would have cheaper oil because again Russia is a major oil exporter, and if this conflict didn't happen, it wouldn't be sanctioned to heaven and back, right? This is why we argue that actually, ladies and gentlemen, the expansion of NATO further guarantees world peace, world trade, and in general are good for the benefit of the whole world. That is why we are proud to oppose this motion. Thank you.
Deputy.
NATO is a great organization. It involves many great nations in this whole world, and it has a big powers and big effect in international in the world, right?
Yes.
So I'm here to tell you, judges, what are the most regrettable things on these expansions of what are the. So I'm here to tell you, judges, what are the most regrettable things on these expansions of NATO. First of all, the expansions itself expansions itself make NATO leads the world, and it's already happens in our status quo. Well, as I tell you that NATO is a huge organization. It involves all the greatest nations in the world. It has power, and other countries less likely want to have problem with it, right? So its expansions makes it kind of rule the world right now. And what is bad about it? First, it is ruling the world means countries afraid of them, right? Because these big countries have a back of each other's, and if we attack one country, if we have a problem with one country, we also have problem with other NATO members, and it leads to these other countries out of NATO. They don't want to have problem with these NATO members, NATO organization. So it leads to, if these NATO members, if they do bad, other countries less likely to oppose them. For example, we know that USA, they supports genocides on Palestinians, but we know that other countries, they don't want to, oppose this USA and do big things to for example maybe attack USA for for their support to this genocide, because they don't want to have problem with USA, because if you have problem with USA, you have problem with other NATO members, and this leads to normalization, and it is really happening right now. We normalize like everything that USA does, and everything, like for example, like other NATO members does, because basically we afraid of them. Other country afraid of NATO members. They're afraid of NATO members. And why this normalization is bad? This normalization leads to these NATO members basically do whatever they want to do, because they know that no countries would oppose them. No countries would attack them because of the bad things they did. So next, because of its power, countries want to join them, right? Because of its NATO power, because they know, wow, NATO really have powers, and no countries want to oppose them. They really want to join this NATO. They want this NATO. They want this NATO leaders support, the leaders, i.e. USA, UK, and other greatest nations in NATO. They want to join them because they want to have the backing of NATO. They do anything to join NATO. So these NATO countries take advantage of it. How? They know how much these other countries want to be part of them, because they want the security of these NATO members. So they're most likely to be, and they are being the NATO leaders' puppet, like USA and UK puppet, because they know that this country would do anything to join NATO, and if they are being in NATO, they would do anything to have like the attention of these leaders, like USA, UK, and etc. And this would be like NATO members. These great nations would take advantage for it. For what? Because they need these countries, for support those bad things they do, like I explained to you, like this support to genocide and etc. They need countries. They need many countries to to support what they do, and they know that many countries want to join NATO because of it. They take advantage of it. They take these countries, they expand to have more support to support what they do. So respond to the OO cases. They say that this expansion would take the other members of NATO confirmations before they let these countries to join the NATO. But in the fact, in NATO itself, it has the most powerful countries. Not all countries in NATO have the same power. For example, like I explained, USA and UK, they are the most, greatest, the greatest nations in NATO. So if you say that it based on all members' confirmation, no, because in NATO itself, for example, if USA want it, so NATO would do it, because other members used as puppet, just like I explained to you. They would do anything that USA told them to do, because USA have the most powerful. So if they oppose this USA, they would not to get like the security, and USA would manipulate something to them and do bad things to them. That's why they most likely to do what USA do. So this is bad, because USA basically make them as their puppets, and it's really bad. And
shit is real.
My next argument, how this NATO would threaten other countries. Countries afraid to have problem with NATO, I explained to you. If they have problem, not only the country that they have problem with, they have to face, but also the other NATO members, which are not a small countries. Judges. NATO members do whatever they want to do. It would lead to NATO members do whatever they want to do, because they know that other countries less likely to have problem with them, because if they have problem, they would also have to face USA and UK. That will lead to they do whatever they want to do. It makes them do bad things also.
Okay. Judges, before we go to our argument, let's respond to a couple of facts about what the government are standing for. Firstly, PM stated to you that the moment when you, as a non-NATO member, and you see other people having a NATO member, you're going to have like disagreement and you prompt to attack them. Firstly, those are being countered by the second speaker argument, that's saying that the people is afraid of NATO member, inherently afraid of NATO member, so on and so forth. But even if that's the case, I'm going to tell you why that is good under my argument. Secondly, we believe that there is some key evidence of what NATO really is. My OR already told you that on how you get in NATO is you getting agreement and unanimous vote by the member of NATO. Therefore, we believe that you need to have a very clear and clean status record, to the point that every member would agree for you to join into NATO to begin with. Therefore promoting the idea of a harmonical system within the NATO alliance itself. Another debate as to whether or not the NATO member could do as easily as they could because they have like NATO and big boy USA on their back. We believe that that's a no, right? Because at the end of the day, NATO in NATO itself is a defense forcing alliance. It's not an attacking alliance. It's not even a group of economical alliance, politics, so on and so forth. The only politic that happened is to whether or not the people, whether or not the country would appeal as a good person. It is something that is regretted, but the government is not talking about. But even then, it's going to be much more better when NATO itself going to into expansion. With that, my argument. Why does then by not having expanded itself, it will promote harm towards not only the NATO member but also non-NATO member itself? Firstly, what really is the function of NATO other than a big shield for the non-defense, less defense nation? Firstly, we believe that in the status quo right now, NATO is used as a deterrence effect before the conflict happen. It sounds similar to what the OG stated, but hear me out. The idea is NATO would not fight you the moment if you're not fighting the non-NATO member. That itself, the NATO member itself cannot do as much harm, because at the end of the day, the idea is NATO preaching world peace, and world peace that NATO preaching on by a passive and by a passive but emerging power that is happening within NATO, right? But then again, how does the deterrence effect of other people to be get before the conflict that happen? Really, it is under 2 points. Firstly, presence, and secondly, urgency. We already know the presence of NATO itself, so we're going to go to urgency. What does this mean? It means that NATO need to have so much.
Oh no, the second speaker of the opposition is not understandable. It's I think the second speaker of the OG has the most like persuasive point, because yeah, it makes sense though. Like it really makes sense it really makes sense with the condition of what NATO is like today, like the behavior of NATO that has been, exposed to the society. Okay, NATO is this, NATO is that. The nuance of when you hear the name of NATO, you probably think it is like bad organization, because the only country that has the most control is the United States. I've never heard, at least like I've never heard the other members' opinion about something that is happening. For example, what's been happening in Palestine and Israel war. Like this is like, I don't know, man. I don't know. This is tough. Yeah, shit is tough. Even the round one, the earliest round motions mostly sounds like it is more like something that can be debated even if you don't have much knowledge about it. because it doesn't require like fact that much, you know, and knowledge that much. For example, like Sora, okay, artificial intelligence, we are now familiar with that. So yeah, I'm tired of this shit. Tired of this shit, man, for real. Yep. I don't know what to focus now. Maybe I'm just gonna read. I think I'm going to take a break from this, and I'm gonna read, and we're going to come back to the understanding the guidebook and also trying to implement what I have just read and consumed, especially this video. Just going to focus on how can I, you know, present my ideas clearly without this expectation that, oh, I have to like have a good framing, I should have, you know, model. I just want to understand like the fundamental components of the debate, which is presenting your argument, having presenting your justification, the examples, and how to refute your opponent's government, how to provide more important case, you know. As I said, this debate is basically a comparative debate that you should present the case that is more important than your opponent's case, you know. So for example, if your opponent say that that in the motion of this house opposes the glorification of remote working, and your opponent said that the most important actors is the mother that has child. You as a government, you can defend that and deny that no, the most important actors is not only mothers with child, but our next generation, or maybe just disagree that no, the mothers of child actually is harmed by this type of working style.